Listen to this. Your life changes the moment you stop giving your strength to what keeps draining it. You may have been holding on to habits, voices, relationships, memories, and expectations that ask for everything and give little back. You keep choosing what is familiar instead of what is healthy. You keep returning to what hurts because it is known, while what heals feels uncertain. Breathe with me for a moment. You are not weak because you struggle with this. You are human, learning, growing, and waking up. The Creator has placed in you a deeper longing than survival. You were made for peace, truth, and wholeness. And every time you notice what drains you, you are standing at the edge of a new beginning. Remember this truth. What you keep feeding will shape your life. If you feed fear, fear grows louder. If you feed comparison, joy becomes smaller. If you feed urgency without wisdom, your soul becomes tired. But if you feed honesty, courage, and calm, your inner world begins to change. You may have spent years saying yes to what leaves you empty because you thought that was normal. You may have mistaken endurance for settlement. You may have called it loyalty when it was really fear of letting go. Listen to this. You are allowed to choose differently now. You are allowed to pause before you answer. You are allowed to ask, does this strengthen me, or does this slowly take from me? That question alone can change the direction of your days. Your heart already knows the difference between what nourishes and what depletes. It may not always speak loudly, but it speaks. It sends a quiet tension when something is off. It brings a calm warmth when something is true. It feels the difference between peace that settles and pressure that performs. You do not need to become someone else to honor this wisdom. You only need to become more honest with what you sense. Feel in your soul. Every time you keep choosing less than what you need, your spirit learns to expect less. Every time you choose with care, your spirit remembers it was made for more. This is not about chasing perfection. It is about refusing to abandon yourself again. Maybe you have kept going back to situations that make you shrink. Maybe you have kept speaking kindly to people who speak carelessly to you. Maybe you have kept giving your energy to spaces that never make room for your growth. Listen to this. There is a difference between compassion and self-abandonment. There is a difference between patience and permission for harm. There is a difference between hope and denial. You can love without losing yourself. You can forgive without returning to what keeps wounding you. You can be gentle and still have boundaries. The Creator did not place your tenderness in you so that the world could consume it. Your tenderness is holy. Guard it. Breathe with me for a moment. When you begin to protect your peace, some people may not understand. They may call you change. They may call you difficult. They may call you selfish for no longer carrying what they were comfortable placing on your shoulders. But their confusion is not your instruction. You are not required to stay small so others can feel big. You are not required to keep repeating old patterns so no one has to adjust. A life that is growing will eventually ask for different choices. That is not rebellion. That is maturity. Remember this truth. A tree does not apologize for reaching toward the sun. It simply grows. You may have been told that if you just try harder, tolerate more, or ask for less, things will work out. But your soul was never meant to survive by constant compromise. You are not here to disappear into roles, expectations, or fears. You are here to become fully alive. That means some things you once accepted must now be questioned. Some voices you once trusted must now be tested. Some patterns you once repeated must now be interrupted. Listen to this. A wake-up call is not a punishment. It is a mercy. It arrives when the life inside you is ready to stop settling and start choosing. There is a quiet power in the moment you stop explaining away what hurts. When you stop saying, it is fine when it is not fine. When you stop pretending that exhaustion is normal. When you stop calling loneliness independence. When you stop naming emptiness as peace because peace would require change. Your heart deserves truth. Honest truth is not harsh. It is healing. You cannot mend what you keep denying. You cannot transform what you keep defending. You cannot rise while apologizing for wanting more life. Feel it in your soul. You are permitted to acknowledge that something is not right. You are permitted to say, this is draining me. You are permitted to step back. You keep waiting for the right moment, but sometimes the right moment begins when you stop waiting for permission from fear. You keep thinking you need one more sign, one more guarantee, one more person to agree. But the deepest turning point may be quieter than that. It may be the moment you admit you are tired of repeating what does not serve your peace. It may be the moment you choose rest over proving. It may be the moment you choose honesty over performance. Listen to this. The path forward does not always begin with a dramatic leap. Sometimes it begins with a small, faithful refusal. Refusal to keep calling harm normal. Refusal to keep shrinking for approval. Refusal to keep trading your voice for acceptance. The divine placed discernment in you for a reason. Discernment is not suspicion. It is not cynicism. It is the ability to sense what strengthens life and what quietly steals from it. When you honor discernment, you stop making every choice from pressure. You begin to ask better questions. Does this align with peace? Does this lead me toward truth? Does this help me breathe? Or does it keep me bracing? Those questions protect your future. You do not need to have every answer today. You only need enough courage to admit what your spirit has already noticed. Listen to this. The truth you avoid now will often return later, wearing a louder voice. Maybe you are used to staying, because leaving feels complicated. Maybe you are used to enduring, because speaking up feels risky. Maybe you are used to saying yes because no feels too uncomfortable. But comfort is not always kindness. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is stop cooperating with what drains you. You do not need to become cold to become clear. You do not need to become harsh to become firm. You can stay loving while becoming less available to what wounds you.
That is sacred growth. That is what it looks like when a soul begins to protect the life it was given. There are seasons when the greatest breakthrough is not getting more, but losing what was never meant to remain. Losing the habit that numbed you. Losing the pattern that kept you small. Losing the need to be chosen by everyone. Losing the constant checking, proving, and chasing. You may grieve those losses because familiar pain can feel safer than unknown healing. But grief does not mean the loss was wrong. It means something in you recognizes the cost of change. Breathe with me for a moment. Release can feel like a wound before it feels like freedom. Yet freedom is what waits on the other side. Listen to this, your worth is not measured by how much you can withstand. You do not become more valuable by enduring what keeps injuring you. You do not become more lovable by ignoring your own needs. The Creator placed life in you, not silence. He placed wisdom in you, not self-erasure. He placed sensitivity in you so you could notice truth, not so you could excuse mistreatment. Your boundaries are not walls against love. They are doors that let healthy love stay and harmful dynamics leave. That is not weakness. That is wisdom learning to speak. You may have spent a long time feeling guilty when you wanted more. More peace. More honesty. More care. More consistency. More depth. More room to breathe. But wanting more from life is not greed when what you want is healthier, truer, and calmer. Feel it in your soul. There is a difference between craving endless comfort and refusing to keep living in unnecessary pain. One is escape. The other is alignment. You were not created to settle for relationships that erase your spirit, work that empties you, or thoughts that constantly tear you down. You were created to grow into a life that reflects the beauty within you. If your heart has been taught to tolerate too much, it may take time to learn a new language. That language is not suspicion. It is respect. It says, I matter. My peace matters. My voice matters. My time matters. My future matters. Listen to this, respect is not arrogance. It is agreement with truth. And truth says you are worth care that is sincere, not careless. You are worth loyalty that is steady, not inconsistent. You are worth spaces where your presence is welcomed, not merely used. The moment you begin to agree with truth, your choices begin to change. Some people around you may prefer the version of you that never questions, never pauses, never says enough. But the Creator did not design you to be endlessly exploitable. You are allowed to become clearer. You are allowed to become less available to chaos. You are allowed to become more selective with your energy, your attention, and your trust. Breathe with me for a moment. This is not you becoming hard. This is you becoming whole. Wholeness often looks like a person who no longer confuses guilt with goodness. It looks like someone who has learned that peace is not a luxury. It is a necessity. There is also grief in awakening. When you realize how long you have been settling, you may feel sadness for the time that passed. You may wonder why you tolerated what now feels so obvious. Be gentle with yourself. Growth is not proof that you were foolish. Growth is proof that you are awake now. The self you are becoming is not accusing the self you were. It is guiding it forward. Remember this truth: every wise person once had blind spots. Every healed person once had habits that kept them stuck. What matters is not the shame of the old pattern. What matters is the courage to change it. Listen to this: you are not meant to negotiate with what constantly weakens you. If something repeatedly drains your spirit, it deserves your attention. If something repeatedly confuses your peace, it deserves your honesty. If something repeatedly leaves you feeling smaller, it deserves your refusal. This does not mean you abandon every difficult thing at the first challenge. It means you stop calling every sacrifice noble when some sacrifices are actually self-betrayal. Wisdom is not fearful of the truth. Wisdom does not make excuses for what keeps hurting. Wisdom says, enough, and then chooses a different direction. Your life begins to open when you stop making peace with what never made peace with you. That sentence may sit deeply in you because it is true. A pattern that keeps asking you to shrink is not your home. A voice that keeps making you doubt your value is not your guide. A relationship that only works when you disappear is not love in its healthy form. Feel it in your soul: you are not being asked to become unkind. You are being invited to become clear. Clear enough to stop tolerating what steals your light. Clear enough to protect what the divine has placed in you. Sometimes the hardest thing is admitting you have been surviving on crumbs while calling it enough. Not because you were weak, but because you were hopeful. Hope can keep us in places long after wisdom has started whispering that it is time to move. Hope is beautiful, but hope must be joined with truth. Otherwise it becomes a cage. Listen to this: you can honor the good in people without ignoring the harm. You can remember the moments that felt loving without denying the moments that did not. You can appreciate what was real and still decide it is no longer enough for your life. You keep expecting peace to arrive without change, but peace often asks you to participate. It asks you to set down what is heavy. It asks you to stop rehearsing what wounds you. It asks you to stop returning to what empties you. Breathe with me for a moment. The peace you want is not always found in getting more. Sometimes it is found in releasing more. Releasing the fantasy that one day a harmful thing will become harmless. Releasing the fantasy that you can keep everything the same and feel different. Releasing the fantasy that your soul can heal while you keep feeding the wound. The Creator is not disappointed that you are learning this slowly. You were never meant to understand everything at once. You were meant to awaken in stages, with patience and compassion. So do not let shame sit in the driver's seat. Shame says, you should have known. Compassion says, you know now, and now you can choose differently. That is the voice that leads to healing. That is the voice that restores dignity. That is the voice that turns a painful lesson into a wiser future. Remember this truth: a moment of clarity can change the direction of a whole life. You may have noticed how often your body tells the truth before your words do. Tightness, fatigue, restlessness, heavy breathing, a feeling of being on edge, a deep sense that something is off. Listen to this: your body is not your enemy. It is often the messenger of your inner world. When you keep ignoring the message, the tension grows louder. When you pause and listen, healing begins. Not every ache is physical. Some aches are the result of carrying too much, for too long, in places that were never meant to hold it all. Your body, too, deserves gentleness. There is power in naming what drains you without making it into your identity. You are not the drama. You are not the exhaustion. You are not the fear. You are not the pattern. You are the one noticing the pattern. That distinction matters. Feel it in your soul. You are separate from the habits that have shaped your days. You are not trapped inside them forever. You can learn. You can unlearn. You can begin again. The fact that you are aware is evidence that transformation is already in motion. Awareness is the first light that enters a closed room. Sometimes you keep returning to what is familiar because familiarity feels less lonely than change. Even pain can become a kind of company when it has been around long enough. But what is familiar is not automatically faithful. What is known is not automatically good. Listen to this. Your soul may resist change at first because change asks it to trust a future it cannot yet see. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are standing at the threshold of something bigger than your old comfort. Keep going gently. You do not need to rush. You only need to keep choosing life. Every step toward wholeness will challenge a part of you that has gotten used to survival. Survival says, keep the peace at any cost. Wholeness says, peace matters, but not if it costs your voice. Survival says, endure quietly. Wholeness says, speak honestly. Survival says, stay small so you do not disturb anyone. Wholeness says, grow, even if growth changes your place. Breathe with me for a moment. This is not a rejection of your past. It is a recognition that your past can no longer define your ceiling. You are allowed to rise beyond what once kept you safe. There is a sacred moment that comes when you stop asking, how do I keep everything? And start asking, what is actually worth keeping? That question changes your life. Some things you are holding are not treasures, they are burdens wearing familiar faces. Some expectations are not support, they are weights. Some obligations are not love, they are fear in costume. Listen to this, your energy is not infinite. Your attention is not neutral. What you keep giving to will continue to shape you. That is why discernment matters. It helps you place your life where it can flourish instead of merely survive. You may feel resistance now because change can feel like loss before it feels like relief. It can feel like stepping out of a house where every room is known, even if the air inside has become hard to breathe. But the Creator did not give you life so you could live half awake in cramped places forever. He placed hunger for more in your spirit for a reason. Not greed. Not restlessness. Hunger for wholeness. Hunger for truth. Hunger for peace that can actually stay. Feel it in your soul, that hunger is not a mistake. It is a sign you are ready to expand. The moment you begin choosing better, some old things will protest. Old habits dislike being questioned. Old fears dislike being exposed. Old patterns dislike losing control. They may tell you that you are selfish, difficult, unrealistic, or too sensitive. But those labels are just noise from the part of life that benefited when you stayed unaware. Remember this truth, growth often sounds like betrayal to what kept you small. Do not let the old noise decide your future. You are not here to keep comforting what harms you. You are here to become a person who can live truthfully, gently, and fully. Breathe with me for a moment. Imagine what changes when you stop forcing yourself to remain where your heart keeps closing. Imagine the relief of not needing to pretend. Imagine the calm of making choices that line up with your inner clarity. Imagine the freedom of saying no without fear. Imagine the joy of saying yes only when your whole being is at peace. Listen to this, this is not a fantasy. It is a direction. One small act of honesty can open a door in your life that fear has kept shut for years. One clear boundary can protect a future you have been silently longing for. You do not need to have everything resolved to begin. The first honest choice is enough. The first wise pause is enough. The first boundary is enough. The first release is enough. The first step away from what drains you is enough. The Creator works with sincere steps. He does not require instant perfection. He honors movement toward truth. Feel it in your soul, you can be both trembling and brave. You can be both healing and uncertain. You can be both grateful and tired. The point is not to feel flawless. The point is to move with honesty toward what gives life. If your past has trained you to settle quickly, then changing that pattern may feel unfamiliar at first. Be patient with the process. You are not breaking something good. You are breaking agreement with what is less than good. Listen to this, the more you practice choosing peace, the more natural peace becomes. The more you practice pausing, the less urgent your fear feels. The more you practice honoring yourself, the less tempting self-abandonment becomes. Patterns are powerful, but they are not permanent. You can train your heart in new ways. You can train your mind to stop calling chaos normal. There is a gentleness in the way the divine often heals. Not with loud force, but with steady light. Not with condemnation, but with clarity. Not with panic, but with patience. Your soul can trust that kind of guidance. Breathe with me for a moment. Imagine a hand on your shoulder, not pushing, not shaming, simply reminding you to look up. That is what wisdom does. It reminds you. It calls you back. It helps you remember that you were not made to live half-empty. You were made to carry light, to give love, and to walk in truth with courage. You may have spent so long trying to keep others comfortable that you forgot your own comfort mattered too. That forgetting is common, but it is not harmless. A heart that keeps disappearing for the sake of peace eventually becomes tired, bitter, or numb. Listen to this, peace that requires your disappearance is not true peace. It is silence dressed as harmony. Real peace makes room for everyone's humanity, including yours. It lets your needs exist without apology. It lets your presence take up space. It lets your truth breathe. That is the kind of peace worth choosing. Maybe you are afraid that if you stop settling, you will lose people. Maybe you will. Some connections only last as long as you agree to be less than you are. But losing what depends on your self-erasure is not a tragedy. It is a revelation. Remember this truth. What is meant to stay will learn how to meet the truth in you. What is meant to grow with you will not require your shrinking. The right people, the right spaces, the right opportunities, and the right rhythm will not demand that you betray your own soul. They will make room for it. There is also healing in the way you speak to yourself. If your inner voice has become a harsh narrator, then that voice must be questioned. You do not need to repeat every old judgment just because it is familiar. You do not need to call yourself hard words and pretend they are motivation. Feel it in your soul, a wounded inner voice can be transformed. It can learn tenderness. It can learn truth. It can learn to say, you are growing. You are allowed to change. You are not too late. You are still becoming. That inner kindness is not weakness. It is medicine. When you begin to live from truth, life may look quieter for a while. Less drama. Less noise. Less rush. That quiet can feel strange if you have become used to intensity. But quiet is often where clarity lives. Listen to this, not every quiet season is empty. Some quiet seasons are full of inner restructuring, where your soul learns how to breathe without chaos. Do not confuse calm with lack. Do not confuse stillness with stagnation. Sometimes stillness is where your foundation is being made stronger. Sometimes the deepest growth is invisible until the roots have done their work. The Creator has not placed you here to endlessly repeat what hurts you. He placed in you the ability to notice, to choose, to heal, and to build. That means your life can become a place of wiser decisions. A place of softer, stronger boundaries. A place where love no longer requires self-erasure. A place where your yes means yes and your no means no. Breathe with me for a moment. These are not small things. They are the architecture of a healthier life. They determine the shape of your days, the quality of your peace, and the dignity of your future. If you have been feeling guilty for wanting more, let that guilt soften and leave. Wanting more truth is not selfish. Wanting more peace is not selfish. Wanting more consistency is not selfish. Wanting more room to breathe is not selfish. The divine does not ask you to stay in a life that keeps starving your soul. He asks you to live honestly, with courage and care. Listen to this: the desire for a healthier life is not a flaw. It is a sign that your spirit remembers what wholeness feels like. Let that memory guide you forward. There will still be days when old habits call your name. That does not mean you are failing. It means the old pathways are still familiar. The question is not whether old things will tempt you. They will. The question is whether you will keep agreeing with them. Feel it in your soul: every time you choose differently, you strengthen the new path. Every time you choose peace over panic, truth over denial, and care over self-abandonment, you make the new way more real. You do not have to master the journey in one day. You only have to keep walking it. You are not being asked to become someone hard or guarded. You are being asked to become someone clear. Clear people do not waste their lives on what depletes them. Clear people do not confuse pressure with love. Clear people do not keep returning to what tears them down. Listen to this: clarity is kind. It tells the truth without cruelty. It makes room for compassion without surrendering discernment. It helps you see what is present and what is pretending. You need that clarity, and you can have it. The Creator delights in giving wisdom to the sincere heart that asks. Some of the biggest changes in your life may not look dramatic from the outside. They may look like a pause before answering. A smaller circle. A cleaner schedule. More sleep. More boundaries. Fewer explanations. Less chasing. More prayer. More quiet. More honesty. Breathe with me for a moment. These changes may look simple, but they are powerful. They redirect your life at the level where habits are born. They teach your nervous system that safety does not always require vigilance. They teach your heart that stillness is not laziness. It is a form of trusting life again. If you have been waiting for a sign, let this be one. The sign is not that everything instantly changes. The sign is that you are no longer willing to stay unconscious about what hurts you. The sign is that your soul is asking for more integrity. The sign is that peace has become important enough to protect. Remember this truth: awakening does not always arrive as lightning. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet refusal to keep participating in your own depletion. That refusal is holy. That refusal is brave. That refusal is the start of your freedom. You can still be kind while being decisive. You can still be loving while being selective. You can still be gentle while being firm. Those traits do not cancel each other. They can live together beautifully. Feel it in your soul: true strength is not loud. It is steady. It does not need to dominate. It simply knows what honors life and what dishonors it. The more you trust that strength inside you, the less power fear has over your choices. You will begin to recognize that you were not created to be managed by your old wounds forever. Listen to this: every time you choose what supports your spirit, you are telling your life that it matters. Every time you choose rest, truth, and healthy limits, you are cooperating with healing. Every time you stop settling, you create space for better things to meet you. That may sound simple, but simple choices create the future. Tiny decisions become habits. Habits become the texture of a life. Your life is being shaped right now by what you repeatedly accept. So choose with care. Choose with honesty. Choose with reverence for the precious life you have been given. The divine is not far away from your process. He is present in the questions, the pauses, the discomfort, the breakthroughs, and the tears. He is present when you feel empowered and when you feel uncertain. You do not need to clean yourself up before you ask for help. Breathe with me for a moment. Speak to the divine in your own words. Ask for strength, for clarity, for courage, for peace. Ask for the courage to stop settling. Ask for help in choosing what is life-giving. There is no shame in needing guidance. Guidance is part of being human. There is something beautiful about a life that becomes honest.